All right. Well, just as we were coming on, that was
good timing.
That was El Nicole. But anyway,
Right.
I guess I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
And I am El Nicole, apparently occasionally cursing.
And we are the CRM Playaz, and I'm just glad that I survived, as I like to call it, Hurricane Mustang Sally, because that was a long 24 hours of straight rain that we got just in Atlanta. So I really feel sorry for the folks down in Alabama and Florida, because I know they got hammered if we got it like that. So
Our happy hour friends, two of them who were supposed to be on yesterday, couldn't be on because they had no power. None. And one of my personal trainer who lives in the same area as Steve LeMay, of course, who we all know, he showed me a picture of his friend's backyard, and it was literally probably this much water in his backyard.
I heard they had as much as high as 30 feet, or not 30 feet, 3 feet high water drifts. I mean, that's, I can't imagine that.
I'm 5'10". Okay, so this is close. If you're looking at it from the perspective that I had, if I stood in it, it would be somewhere probably above my eyes to my forehead. So that's probably 5'6", 5.5 feet, roughly.
Well, I'm 5'7", so that means it would be right up to my bald head. So that's not good.
Right. well,
underwater, Brent.
We'd see your hat.
Yeah, you would see all that. You would see a floating.
That's all we'd see. We see your hat.
But if it's a Rams hat, it's a good chance that's me. That's yeah. Anyway. All right, so it's another Thursday, or like we say, Blur's Day. When look at that, we already got. That's right. Don't hate the players. Who
Ray. Well, no, he sent me this. We were messaging this morning, and he sent me this thing he saw. I don't think I can reproduce it, but on Facebook, that was, I don't know where he got it from, but it was "Don't Hate the Players." It was really ornate, though. It looked pretty cool. Kind of wish we could use it for something.
I think we can, and we shall.
All right,
if we can,
we'll appropriate it.
I always like the third Thursday, or is it really the third Blur's Day now? Because
it's the Blurred Blur's Day.
It's the Blurred Blur's Day, and that means El Nicole. And I just like saying El Nicole, and I know Paul likes saying El Cid whenever.
Right. So I was about to say our Spanish heroine. Right.
I am actually wearing a Spanish shirt today, just to
that's it.
Be in keeping with the theme. So
you were the woman who saved Spain.
Yeah. Or not.
Yeah. Forget Isabella, so passe. But no, this is another great Thursday. We got some really good stuff. We got a hot topic, and we'll be talking about that. I come with clips to set up these hot topics too. But we have a guest too, an old buddy of ours. Well, he's not old, but we just known him a long time at this point. We'll bring him on in a little while. But before we do that, you know what yesterday was? It was the happy hour, and this was a special happy hour. So I turned things over to Mr. Paul Greenberg for the BYOB report.
Yeah.
Which yesterday was asking for, by the way.
Wow. Literally by the time we're all done, there's literally going to be one letter in the alphabet, and it's going to be B. I swear to God. Right. So
works for me.
So yesterday was the big reveal. We have 10 bands. They're locked in. They all have their songs. They all have their band members. Although from what I understand, we got one or two new band members adding on. We found out yesterday, for example, that Episerver's band vocalist also was a professional opera singer and their CMO, and sang at Carnegie Hall, right? Which is quite the achievement. I don't know which band had the SNL saxophonist. They didn't fess up, so they weren't on the call, I don't think. But it's shaping up pretty big, and it was basically just the entire session was devoted to one, telling everybody who's in what band and what songs, and two, we showed a few clips of the unattainable and the sort of attainable when it comes to the video production. The unattainable, of course, is one I think we even talked about.
Well, actually, you know what? I think I may be able to give a little demonstration of that. Matter of fact, I know I can. Let me go to the videotape here. I feel like Warner Worth whenever I say that.
It's the perfect chemistry. I had no idea you were doing this yet. I must have.
But I actually think that this is more of the ground level. This is what we expect. The lowest of our expectations for the video. So let me.
This is gonna be bad.
Let me give you guys what we want you to at the least shoot for. So let me do this. Let me do this. Wow, sounds like a missile is coming in hot right now. But
yeah, I'm adding special sound effects just to add to the intensity.
Okay. Here we go.
Hey, hey,
hey,
hey, hey, hey, hey, hey, hey, hey, hey, hey.
Ooh, I do what do. Hey, ooh, I do what I do. Oh, you got me helpless. Look into your eyes and the sky's the limit. I'm helpless. Down for the count and I'm drowning in.
All right, so let me. That's
good luck.
Yeah, that's the prerequisite level of quality that we're looking for.
And I'm sure you two will flag us for it too.
That's right.
Right. So that literally, honestly, is the unattainable. I mean, good luck if you pull that off. There's a good chance you're going to win video.
A very good chance.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You go that close.
I mean, let's face it. I'm joking when I say that's the minimum. That's like if you get even close to that, I can't imagine.
I think that's the shoe-in right there.
Right.
Hey, I'm glad Bob is here. Hey, Bob. I just got this brand new Ram shirt. I thought I'd just tell you that it's brand new. Just got it. Anyway,
that's right. Rams polo. All right.
I got it. All right. So, anything else? The kind of the list of songs that these folks are going for. It's all over the map, man. It's pretty interesting.
Well, yeah. I mean, Zoho's band actually has Indian fusion. That's what they actually called it, Indian fusion. And they have a medley.
Wait a minute, Indian fusion. So would that just be infusion?
Don't even.
No, sorry.
I mean, there's one. Yeah. Well, never mind. So I will tell you this: the boldest particular single song is probably going to be Zoho's, because Zoho's doing an original, which of course I have counseled against the entire time, but they are. And that's, you want to talk about big risk song? There it is. Because number one, you not only have to, we have no reference points to work against, right? So the song has to be literally unbelievably great. And then the actual lyrics have to be great, because again, we have zero reference. The lyrics don't matter as much. You just have to perform them well in the cover, right? Because we already know what they are.
You're familiar.
Right, exactly. Yeah. This one, the lyrics have to be the equivalent of what the cover lyrics are in order to. So it's a huge risk. But that said, they pull it off. Woo. That'll be amazing. And
it's funny, Paul, just kind of picking up on that thought there, because I was just thinking about this either yesterday evening or earlier today, because, it's Blur's Day, so I'm not sure when. But I was really thinking about new music. How is it that you come to really like and appreciate a song that you've never heard from before? Because it's like one of two routes, right? Either it's so awesome the first time you hear it, you're like, damn, I really like that. I got to listen to that again. Or you're like, meh. But you hear it a few times and eventually it becomes familiar enough that you sort of decide that maybe you like it or you don't.
Well, yeah. And there's also, the genres kind of matter too. Like you grow up with a particular kind of genre, so you tend to like that more right away. Like, say in my case, I grew up with going to Broadway a lot. which is why you see a lot of my examples being that, because I love Broadway as a result. But there's a lot of association and context in my childhood and the excitement of Broadway itself. So that's another factor. There's actually, I saw an article on that subject about, it must have been 10 years ago or something, but it was basically, the idea was certain personality types, you can determine personalities from the music they like. And they were also, the article was basically saying that's pretty well known, but the reverse is what the article was about, right? Which is, what are the personality types, right, that actually drive people to certain types of music, right? So there was that too. And so there's so many factors that go into it. It's amazing to me. And the funny thing is that 7+ billion people, and every one is a unique combination, that so everyone's, let's say, playlists are different, right? And I mean, how many times do you listen to a playlist that somebody does? Let's say you pick it up from somewhere that you like every single song on it.
Never happened.
Almost never. Right. Exactly. Never.
Absolutely. But you have those go-to friends. I mean, come on. We remember when it was mixtapes, right? Like who made the awesome mixtape?
I remember
you burn a good CD. And, there's definitely a set of people that are very good curators of that. And people whose taste I am drawn to, especially with stuff that I didn't know before, hearing it on something like that. So I think this is how good DJs used to make a good reputation too, right? So these days it's who's curating the good list on Spotify.
See, when I was young, we just basically was, hey, what 5 songs do you like? And that was just like a verbal
conversation. And it was like a total of 5
minutes
of music. Yeah.
Right. And it was a verbal conversation on a street corner, right? That was it. That's how you figured it out. There was no playlist. There was no mixtapes. We had no technology other than our mouth, right? So different world.
Well, I'm just happy about what we heard from yesterday, because although, Zoho did go the brand new original route, I think it's going to be interesting. I'm just glad that everybody else heeded my warning and stayed the hell away from Prince, because there's nothing worse than hearing somebody try to do like Let's Go Crazy, and it's just Let's Go Brutal. I mean, I just can't do that. Or When Doves Cry, they just butcher the song, or I can't take it. So I'm so glad, as you can see, I'm kind of getting a little worked up thinking about it. I'm just so glad
I don't think I've ever seen you this emotional, friend, honestly.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often, believe me. I'm just glad that nobody in the 10 bands chose a Prince song, because that just makes me feel good.
Well, everybody gets points for following directions on that front, at least.
I'd say if I'm picking the genre that was most represented, it was probably split between pop and rock. Those two.
Okay.
Which you would expect.
Boomer brother. LP listening parties were the thing. Do we know who that is?
Yeah, that's Josh Greenbaum, man.
I couldn't tell because he's got his mask on.
Yes, Josh
He's
Greenbaum.
all ready for facial recognition right there.
That's LP listening parties. I wasn't that popular, Josh. I didn't go to those.
That's actually kind of funny. All right, so that's the update. That was actually a really fun happy hour yesterday.
It was.
And we're working on there's a number of things working on the venue front, which we'll announce probably next week.
Should we say venue when we say it, or do we just agree that venue means digital now and we don't worry about it anymore?
That's right. Yeah, right. We expect everyone to attend live.
Yeah.
Right. No, of course.
You just have to be alive in your own home.
That's right. Everyone to attend alive.
We would not. We would strongly discourage voting bots. Yeah.
That's right.
Yes. Josh's point.
Yeah. Now, have we talked about the rules for voting yet, for the public voting? Is this like the Chicago style rules of voting, which is vote early and often, that kind of thing? Or, people that have gone on before us can still vote?
No, I'm working on all that. Actually, as of today, I was working on the polling process for the vote. It's going to have security built in. There's no way anyone's going to be able to vote twice. Let's just say that.
I like it. I like between you and Josh Paul, we've got some very strong and deeply held and very well validated views on voting and the voting process.
That's right.
Digital and otherwise. So yeah.
Josh and I are on the board of governors.
All right. Well, we beat that one up pretty good. So that's
yeah.
Yes, we did.
all right. Now we have a guest, and I see him in the green room. I think he's partaking in the last crow nut. That might be
No, see, he's
right.
West Coast, so
He's
well, he has Brookies.
Brookies.
Yeah,
What?
Brookies.
Right. Yeah.
Those are
You gotta tell him
brownie
what-
cookies.
Yeah.
Brownie cookies.
I didn't know that was
So-
a thing, but
Yeah, it is. Jonathan Becker, when he was on, actually told us about multiple mashups of food. And actually, he wrote a post about in 2015 or 16 that lists like 25 different food things like that. And Brookies are in that post too, on his
Interesting.
own blog.
for someone to validate Linner, because we have brunch, but there's not really anything that goes the other half of the day. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
So-
that
Wasn't
could
Lin,
be-
wasn't wait a minute? Wasn't Linner something that was mentioned on the Seinfeld episode or something like that? Seems like-
you might be right.
Something like
Huh.
that. Oh, look who's here! Your buddy.
I know. See, we're two LA girls, and if two LA girls don't know Brookies, it's not a
Well, this is apparently his thing. Just, I'll tell you what, easy way to find out, go to Etsy and look at how many people are actually selling Brookies.
Go to Etsy
There
for
is-
some good brookies. That sounds.
That's
yeah.
exactly it. There's dozens of bakeries selling Brookies on Etsy.
Interesting. Okay, so we're gonna bring our guest on, but before we even talk about all the cool things he's doing, I want to bring him on because I want to get his opinion on a clip that I'm about to play for everybody. So, with that in mind, here he is, straight out of
The
LA, or
man.
San Francisco, or somewhere in California. Kenny
Oakland.
Lauer.
Oakland.
Oaktown is in the house. Kenny Lauer. Hey, what's
Oaktown.
up, man?
Hey, it's great to be here. And Nicole, I've never heard of Brookie. I mean, the only reason I heard is Paul mentioned it to me on a phone call the other day. So I know
It's
Jonathan
taking a
Becker.
New Yorker to school you guys in Brooklyn.
No. Look at I'm Jewish, so my thing is just bagels. And Becker should know, like Brookie. I don't know where that comes from. I did look on Etsy though while you said it, and you're right. Tons of Brookie.
But
You should
he's
look
the
at it,
one-
Nicole.
He's the one that told us about it. I mean,
I
I never heard
know.
of Brookie before. I mean,
Well,
I was still
Listen,
thrown off
I'm
by
serious.
Corona.
In
We'll take him to
2015
town when we say.
I'm going to find that while we're talking about all this stuff. I'm finding that blog post.
Hey, look, this is the first. I don't think we've ever had a comment from Mr. Jeffrey Workow before. Have we ever had him comment on?
No,
It's good to see you, Mr. Workow.
Jeff.
Very nice. Okay, now before we talk about Kenny's really exciting past and even more exciting future and what he's doing. Matter of fact, I know it's called was it Livekind or Lifekind or something like that?
Lifekind.
Too bad it's not Mankind, because then you could have had Kenny Lauer, CEO of Mankind, joining us. That would have been really cool.
I
to
know.
say.
Wouldn't that be great?
Would have been awesome. But I can go.
It's a little presumptuous, but okay. I mean,
Dream big, Kenny. Dream big.
yeah.
Okay, now we're all-
but let me just say that one of the coolest titles I ever heard was a guy at the Smithsonian whose title was Curator of Dinosaurs, and I thought that's pretty cool. Like, come on, like you don't just search for like openings in that, right? That's amazing.
curator
Wow.
of dinosaurs. That's not bad. Cod. I'm Cod. I'm Cod. That's good.
what kind of resume do you have to get that? I wonder. It's like
I don't
like-
know. I would love to see
like
it.
you're curator of cola cans.
Well, wait a minute.
Like, how do you grow into that? Yeah.
Right. That's exactly.
The developer, Paul. I think that's
I'm just
the soda can collections. Yeah.
So
Good
we all
curator
need
of-
to we all need to actually try to figure out a way to get to Jeffrey Wortgow's house, because apparently he's making brookies this weekend. So we
No,
All right.
No kidding, Jeffrey.
ship them
We're all
out.
coming
Jeff,
over.
Ship
All
them out,
right.
man. Ship them
all
out.
right. Okay, so
You
we
need
got
to-
everybody on the camera. So I'm gonna play a clip. This is the hot news that everybody's been talking about. It's had a lot of twists and turns. I think this is the last turn, or is it a twist? It's something about the Oracle TikTok stuff. So I just
Okay.
I just set it up. I hope this is as good as I just set it up. So here we go. Bam, bam, and here we go.
Walmart is a part of this effort on Oracle's part, along with its private equity partners, those who already own stakes in ByteDance. Remember, we're talking there about Sequoia, Co2, large hedge fund,
Oh
and
my
General
gosh.
Motors as well. And that Oracle would own as much as, or roughly 20% of the entity if, in fact, this does go through. It would also have, and this is some reporting as well from NBC News, a board of directors, which I've heard as well, would include Walmart and potentially its CEO, Doug McMillon. So that's kind of what we have right now, Kayla, in terms of at least getting a sense for where things stand. We should know a lot more in the next day or so as to whether or not it passes muster with the president, and therefore is something that he will allow. The 20% number is interesting, but I don't know what the actual it is 20% of. In other words, what's the price or what is the value being put on that TikTok business? Of course, ByteDance being at least something of a forced seller here certainly doesn't seem to indicate that they would get maximum value, although they did at least have an auction that included Microsoft for some time competing as well.
All right, so let me bring
Right
everybody.
on.
Let me bring everybody back into the. Because I heard some gasps. I heard some.
I love it.
All right, so we've been thinking about. First, it was going to be, I think, Microsoft going after TikTok. Then Microsoft started talking about they're going to pull in Walmart and that, and then and then Oracle got in on their own, and then Microsoft withdrew because they didn't take their offer. And then we thought, well, I guess if Microsoft is out, maybe Walmart's out too. But then Oracle got it. And then today, I mean, literally like a couple of hours ago, not only is Oracle looking like it's going to take a 20% stake in whatever it is, because we still don't know exactly
20% of something.
Something
of X.
It's not the algorithms there, because TikTok was not giving up on the algorithms. So it's 20% of something. And Walmart is now a partner. So can anybody tell me what this all means in the end? If the president approves it, actually.
The president will approve it. He loves this. This is like right up his alley. I mean, I actually thought that maybe TikTok was and ByteDance they were just going to delay until the elections.
I kind of thought that too. Yeah.
So I'm actually surprised. First, I was surprised that they were moving forward with Oracle, and then this Walmart. Holy moly!
Yeah, Walmart. I mean, Paul, we were just talking. What was that, like Tuesday?
Yeah, Tuesday.
And I got to explain this one because I was doing a one-on-one conversation with Chuck Ganopathy over at Tact.ai, and we were like talking about what's going on with voice. Why am I not seeing more voice out there? And then in the midst of that conversation, we had to talk about the TikTok and Oracle because that's what everybody is talking about. And then I had to pull in Paul into that conversation. So it went from being, and I got to give this to Chuck G. I'm going to start calling him Chuck G now, like he's, from Public Enemy or something. Chuck G from Good Evening. So he said somehow I went from being on the BBC, which is what I like to call the Brent Broadcasting Channel, not the British one, but the Brent one. He went from being on the BBC to being on PBS, which is the Paul and Brent show. Which that's pretty good. That's
pretty good.
Great.
I immediately asked for donations.
You start running a fundraiser campaign.
Yeah, we'll take our money in brookies at this point. But
that's right.
So Paul, so now that it looks like Oracle is bringing Walmart into the deal with TikTok, does that change any of the opinion that you had 2 days ago on this thing?
Just replay Helpless again. That'll leave it there.
But why are they doing this? Why are they doing this?
That's a $1 million question.
Right. Like Oracle doesn't need to do this. It's not like distribution or supply chain or anything that Walmart is so amazing in bringing. Not going to fly with the team.
Yeah, that's Josh.
That's for sure.
Well,
having teens, I can tell you that is true.
Honestly, I really don't know what the hell they're doing. And my original hypothesis was, and it came in when Oracle was tagged as a partner, not acquiring TikTok, but as a partner, the technology partner for TikTok. I tied it to when Oracle was also doing the very same thing with Zoom, right? And then putting those two together, I can start seeing them, at least with some sort of peculiar strategy, to be like a cloud backbone, and really do compete with AWS and Google Cloud and Microsoft Azure. But I mean, look, one of the things I found out that hasn't been talked about much is that just prior to all of this, TikTok had committed to acquiring $800 million worth of Google Cloud services, which clearly is no longer going to happen, right? And so that I could see that getting Larry Ellison's say competitive juices up there, because that's 800 million minimum. And as a technology partner, where you're investing in the infrastructure, of course, but you're not necessarily buying the company. But now they're talking about 20% ownership, and I don't know what that means. They still haven't heard anybody mention a dollar in this thing. But Walmart and Oracle, I don't know. I
just got a notice from VentureBeat that CRM Playaz is going to take 5% also. So it's going to be a trifecta.
No, we have that already.
Well, that was Take It in Brookies.
See, now we can't. Now we have, because
I think we lost Paul there because he just. All right, now we had lost you for a second, but
no, we're all back. We're all back.
Okay, so actually, we had already put a bid in early, but then we rescinded the bid.
No bid. Yeah, I saw that.
Started getting a little.
Josh, who's on watching the show right now, Josh actually had 44 ruble bid in.
Yeah,
44 ruble bid.
Bid in Bitcoin. That's what I want to know.
So can I just say, because I had some thoughts. We talked about it on Tuesday. I might have changed a little bit. This might have changed me a little bit, because one of the things that the Microsoft Walmart thing kind of offered up was a potential competitor to all those retailers who really didn't want to be on AWS.
Mm-hmm.
To kind of build something that allows them to stay away from the Amazon platform and not let Amazon have that customer data on their platform and all that. So that's why I was like, Microsoft and Walmart, that's kind of interesting. So that actually kind of works the same way when you think about Walmart and Oracle. I mean, it's still an alternative, and it's actually good for Oracle because it provides another opportunity to get back in the race, because right now AWS and Azure are so far ahead. But this, working with Walmart and integrating the TikTok, this gives them something that could potentially help them move closer when you think about it. And then there's another piece of this that just recently came out too that says that Oracle is actually going to be working with TikTok on an IPO offering. So this may actually end up, Paul, you said something the other day that Oracle may not end up having to actually really pay a dime for this stuff. And if that's the case, if they get a 20% stake and then they do an IPO, that's going to be a huge amount of money coming in.
Yep.
I will tell you this too. The other thing that occurs to me actually is that, Walmart's really not as much of a surprise as when I literally thought about it. They're actually a big customer of Oracle's. And I know that because I literally flew to Bentonville, Arkansas with Oracle to speak there about 6 years ago. And they're a huge Oracle customer, right? So I'm not particularly surprised that way, because they already have had a pretty extensive relationship that's lasted a long, long time. So there's some trust actually built in. I know even then, which was, before CX was still CRM back then, that they actually had a very strong, trusted relationship.
But think about it though. Remember when we were sitting in like Oracle Open Worlds, like let's say it was 10 years ago, and Larry would do his keynote, and usually he'd be killing like SAP and Salesforce and those. And then remember about 3 or 4 years ago, all of a sudden, his whole focus was on Amazon.
Yeah,
I mean, it was like laser focused. And Walmart is already a big competitor. So this is like frenemies unite. against the biggest enemy of all of them.
The interesting thing to me is if you're looking for like deeper strategic moves here, and I may be completely off the mark here, but I would argue that's the wrong place to look. What you need to be looking at is a reality TV production plan. Because, and I am serious here when I say that's really what we're looking at here. I mean, it is broad brushstrokes, like getting people talking about this stuff far more extensively and in a totally different way than, you know, what we normally talk about, which is, you know, the domain of the analysts and the pundits and the techie folks. I mean, we're talking about something here that is bizarrely common knowledge. I mean, since when does that happen? I think there's a totally different set of parameters at work here than what we're normally used to in even trying to comprehend, much less evaluate and analyze any sort of M&A activity.
Well, and to your point, really, honestly, I'm sort of getting TikTok fatigue at this point too.
Yeah,
I really am. I don't actually care that much about this deal one way or the other, to be perfectly honest. Right? I mean, it gets lots of press and everything because it's TikTok and it's, you know, other big companies. It's mostly because it's TikTok, really.
Right.
And the combination seems to be peculiar. Right? So, but honestly, I don't care. You know, Microsoft, Oracle, Walmart, do whatever, right? And it's not. Let's say this: the landscape isn't going to be fundamentally altered by this deal, regardless of how it ends, right? And so, you know, I mean, I follow with curiosity, but you know.
But do you think TikTok's important that it survives?
Not really. I mean, but I'm a baby boomer too, right? Right. I'm a baby boomer, right? So why do I mean, I find it funny. I look at TikTok videos every now and then, but because they're funny, you know, and somebody on Twitter brings my attention to a funny one, right? So I look, but it's the same way I look at every single thing involved in social anything, right? Which is if there's something of interest that it's actually doing, not it, but the thing it's doing.
It's what's happening
then
right?
Then I'll pay attention, but I don't pay attention to the platform and its history and I mean, occasionally they matter, you know, they really do matter. Like ultimately, you know, regardless of dislike it, Facebook did actually matter. And that's one that does matter in the pantheon of social platforms one way or the other. And LinkedIn in a business sense is mattering a great deal at this point. It's become the one thing that's become a publishing platform forever, you know, but
So here's the thing. For me, it's like, I Walmart and Oracle teaming up to do original content for consumer. I don't get that one right now. I don't think you make an acquisition or a partnership for that. I don't think that's what you want to do.
No.
And then let's look at like TikTok versus something like Twitch. Now, TikTok, you get the 12-second videos, you get, you know, kind of instant gratification. You look at it and then you leave. I mean, you're not there enamored, you know, entrenched for an hours at a time like you are on something like Twitch, where these folks are playing these games and then they got folks watching these games forever. I mean, it's like they could be sitting there for hours at a time in front of this screen. Maybe the bigger thing that happened for me this week, at least that's a little bit more interesting, is how Amazon is now going to integrate their ad platform and start letting their, you know, the big brands, you know, advertise alongside of Twitch on their Twitch channel. To me, that has a little bit more interest and potential to change things than maybe this does. But that's just me. All right. Any last words before we allow Kenny to take the analyst hat off?
I don't know. Yeah, I like TikTok. So. Like I watch it. All I'm saying is that I'm impressed by the creative outlet. It is for the younger kids, a generational kind of outlet to express themselves. Black Lives Movement was big on there, and it was I mean, we don't have to get into the whole BLM stuff, but it does create an outlet. Yes, see, Mike, so are mine, Josh, same. That our kids are on for hours, and I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I am just generally impressed with the amount of creativity that goes into a TikTok video, even the stars and whatever. So it'll be interesting. I'm glad it's staying, but well, we'll see. Who knows?
Yeah, this hasn't.
I
The
mean,
president still has to approve this thing apparently. So we could have just wasted a whole 20 minutes of our lives for something that will never even happen.
You know, there is one thing I'll say, and you kind of hint at it there, Kenny, and that is that I think and this is not necessarily TikTok specifically, but the idea of having this kind of outlet for creativity, for creating content that's actually a lot of fun and is easy to consume. You know, there's a whole element here in the enterprise space around co-creating content. And I can't believe I actually just uttered that phrase because it just irritates me, because that's the standard that we use to describe this stuff. But the idea that it's not just, you know, big companies create this stuff, or big production houses in the entertainment industry that are creating things. It's really the fact that anybody who has a good idea and little time to fool around can come up with something really cool and interesting. And I think that is as important in the enterprise space as it is in the consumer space. And we just have yet to see that really sort of interconnect yet, but it's going to happen pretty soon.
No argument there. Look, again,
I agree.
It's the content, not the platform provides content.
Yeah, and it's
you know,
not like the same people only who are creating really cool and interesting stuff.
Yeah, and well, that's what YouTube did. I think YouTube,
very true.
YouTube was the true game changer.
Oh, Ray. Okay, Ray.
I guess Ray's done with TikTok. We need to move on.
One last thing,
that was
though.
a great big hint.
You guys, I'll just end with this. You're touching on some really interesting things, because I think it was just last week or this week, the number one guy on, he was on Twitch, and then he signed a deal to, it's like gaming. I don't know what his name is.
It's something Ninja. It's something.
Yeah, something like that. So he was like the number one guy on Twitch for a long time, and then he got wooed away from, I forget what the network was, the channel was, but like they were paying him $15 million.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, and then I forget what it was. His name was, but then he went back to Twitch.
It fell apart. Yeah, it fell apart, and they had to continue to pay him. And then, but I didn't hear he went back to Twitch. I thought
he did.
Apple. I thought Apple picked him up or something. No, he went back to Twitch.
Yeah.
So
I am a gamer, and I actually know who that guy is, right? So, and he did go back to Twitch.
Yeah, so it's like, hey, instead of you guys sending your kids to college and paying like $100,000 a quarter to go to a good school, set them up in your basement, get a nice big screen TV, a nice comfortable chair, get him a Twitch account, let him go to work there.
Yeah, but you know what? One last thing on that. That all was because of YouTube and how YouTube monetized things, right? YouTube did it. What YouTube did, I've been looking into this a lot lately, and what YouTube did was genius, really. They basically took likes and subscriptions and turned it into money, like tons of money for them and the people who had the likes and subscriptions. I mean, it was basically they were sharing funds, and there are a couple of people on YouTube, as you know, who were like one kid who's like, I don't know, 5 or something, or 8, who plays games all day, and he made like $4 million a year on YouTube. But again,
plays with toys.
Plays with toys. That guy. But that's what I'm saying. But what YouTube did, and they pretty much pioneered for everybody, including Twitch and everyone else, monetizing, let's say, the everyday citizen, so to speak, ability. Everyone can make money doing it if you put some time and effort into it. And a lot of the reasons we do all this stuff is because of YouTube, really, right? Make it look good, make things look good. So
to wrap all this up, because we really want to talk about what Kenny is doing.
We're just gonna have a long show.
I got a hard stop. That's why I got to keep. Does this deal move guys like us closer to operating like guys like we just talked about? Enterprise guys? Are we going to start working like these dudes and being able to sign $15 million content deals?
Yes.
I would love for that to be the case. And if that's the case, Oracle, thank you for doing this. If that's the way it's going, but are we seeing? Do you think that there are going to be some instances where what we do and how these folks do it, and we somehow get together and find a way that is appealing to the enterprise space to say, hey, yeah, we want you to do these kinds of things.
But Amazon has an enterprise version of Twitch that they're working on too. So I think there's certainly reason to suspect it could happen. I think the real question is going to be whether we manage to generate interesting enough content that is both engaging and entertaining, but actually informative and useful for people in their jobs, and like hit that crossover in a really powerful way to make people watch and to participate. Because otherwise, wah. Great.
Yeah, right.
You know what,
Exactly.
Nicole? If we're not 80% there right now,
We're doing something wrong.
we're gonna hang it up. We're gonna hang it up.
I like it.
All right, hanging it up. We're hanging up this subject now. I really thought it would be a 5-minute conversation, but how it goes sometimes.
For a 5-minute conversation.
No,
Have you ever heard
12
seen me have a 5-minute conversation?
No, this is a 12-second conversation 1,000 times.
There it is. Or you could watch the long form on Twitch if you care to.
Right.
All right. Finally, so we are going to talk about. Well, you can take the analyst hat off now, Kenny. So now we're going to talk about what you do now. I mean, we know that you were the VP of marketing and digital for the team I just love watching, the Golden State Warriors. I hope they're back next year, by the way. I hope everybody.
Numbers.
That's there it is. All right. So, but that's been a while ago. So why don't you tell us what you're doing with, I was going to say what you're doing with Mankind, but what you're doing with Lifekind, or is it Lifekind?
So Mankind actually was one of the reasons we went with Lifekind. So actually I've been having fun lately. So what we do with Lifekind is we create AI personas that are based on real people. So these AI personas would act and interact just like the real person would. Examples, and Tony Robbins is an investor right now, and he'll be one of the first. He'll be one of the first ones that we do. But the opportunity is that if we could unlock people's potential, because the truth is, because of the constraints of the physical world and even some of the blending world, we can only be in one place at one time. We can only help so much on a one-to-one basis. And if we could unlock that, so instead of looking at time, space, and matter as a constraint, we look at it as an opportunity, and we open that up to allow someone to have the ability to engage as they would in mass, but individually, we could evoke better things in the world. So if we took some of the top people in the world, created AI personas that thought like they did, talk like they did, so we have full voice models and everything, and allow people to interact in any way technology enables. Maybe that's just by voice, or maybe that's in augmented reality. And USC has done some stuff with Holocaust victims along that, with holograms and stuff. Then potentially we could have a much better world, and ultimately it would be available for everyone, not just because everyone is amazing in our eyes. So everyone has the capability, if we were to extend them, to help other people. So that's what I left the Warriors to do, and it's been great. And then lately, just on the side, because I am passionate about using technology to bring people together, and have been involved in virtual events and hybrid events since 2008, when I helped John Chambers move his global sales meeting to virtual. We are just in a unique moment here that I love, which is, how do you use technology stacks and really behavioral ways of thinking, behavioral modeling to step in when we can't physically be together. So, and I've been working with Tony and a bunch of things like that. So that's kind of like my side hustle, just because I'm passionate about it.
Why don't you talk a little bit about, I mean, you're really big on the immersive experiences too, like really, your stuff. And I know you've been working with a couple of companies on that. Talk a little bit about that, and tell a couple of the stories that you kind of told me at times. I think what you're doing there is amazing.
Yeah, that's probably true, Bob. Well, see, what Bob says is right. Like, so we're and it's funny because I've been saying the same thing that I was saying back in 2008. We just didn't have technologies and capabilities to do that. Is that, if you're going to continue to think of virtual engagement as a discounted version of a physical engagement, then you're already working at a deficit. You mentally are just trying to get up to a hybrid event maybe, or a physical event. So this concept of immersiveness is virtually, and again, I'm not talking about virtual reality because the install base just isn't there. So we would, and I've talked to a bunch of companies. There's one called Hologate that's doing unbelievable 5-person interaction in VR. It's just not scalable, and the install base in terms of headsets, like an event would have to send out headsets. It's just not feasible right now. Similar, and that's not going to happen. And because a lot of people are thinking that virtual events are cheap, and that's not necessarily true as well. So the opportunity is to find the technology that's going to close that distance, and a lot of it has to do with interaction. So like what we did with Tony, for example. Tony Robbins, most people, at least our age, know who Tony is. He is a life coach and a strategist, and he brings people together in physical spaces and commands the space, uses every capability that he has in a physical ballroom, closes the door, uses the lights, blasts the sound, controls when people can leave and come, whatever. He uses that to his advantage. The opportunity is to find the right platform or set of platforms that are going to be able to do the same sort of thing for you, depending upon what behavior you want to create. And I'm always about identifying the behavior first and then designing for that to happen. And I think that's where, just because you are good at putting on a physical experience does not mean that you are thinking about what's possible with virtual experiences. And that's why you see Jason Lanier, the guy who coined the term VR, working with Microsoft to improve Microsoft Teams with the together mode, cohesion, fatigue. We were talking about TikTok fatigue, where everyone's, supposedly having Zoom fatigue, right? Same sorts of things. So Tony had to keep people on for 13 hours, for 4 days straight, 26,000 people. And we were able to do that. That was because we knew how to design an experience that would do that. And we had technology that could enable us as well.
So what would be some of the technology? I mean, the design, actually.
What we find is that if you're just going to do one of the biggest challenges is we have a one-to-many presentation. And now people are recording those, pre-recording them, right? So, and they typically pre-record because it's a de-risking process, right? So they don't know how the bandwidth is, they don't know how they're going to come across or whatever. And what you do find, do people notice? Yeah, people notice. People know that it's pre-recorded. That may be okay in some situations, but it certainly is not going to create a feeling of presence. You could come in after and do a chat, what I would call semi-live, but it's just very different than if you were to actually present. So one is, how do you create this feeling of presence, of being there? And part of that is having a bi-directional engagement. So there has to be ways where the audience can feel you. Yeah. So that's exactly right. It becomes entertainers and it becomes cinematic, right? Like when we did some work with Riot Games, they recreated their entire studio online in a virtual space, but they reimagined it. Like, what would League of Legends players want to see? And we still had shoutcasters in. We still had 32 different feeds coming in, and then it was going out to 100,000 people. So part of it is, how do you create this sort of engagement where you can feel the audience can feel you, and then somewhat what Together Mode is trying to do is that you could feel each other. And so what we did is Zoom. We wrapped Zoom in a much bigger technology to be able to enhance Zoom and the capabilities to be able to deliver that. So it was more than just being able to push an icon and say, I hear you, or fantastic. There's ways where you can mute sound, so still the speaker can hear everybody, like unmute, where you can hear everyone, but the speaker is still louder, so everyone can still hear the speaker. You start feeling this sort of engagement. Or it's strategies where you bring people together, like you do a big wheel, and people are actively engaged in that wheel, or the ball is bouncing between videos, and all videos are live. So we had 26,000 people coming in at once. And also, we had capabilities where we could bring two people together as if they were coming on stage. And the feeling is that you are seeing them on stage. Or we could do a background that could be like a sunset or a beautiful home or a financial district, where people who are experiencing that as an attendee would feel like the presenter is actually in a place. Now, obviously, it's not going to be immersive because we don't have that capability. And then the next step is, how do you get people to hear it in the way you want, which is the biggest challenge still. But it's possible. I think and again, I'll just cap this by saying, I think the challenge is that typical, and I worked at George P. Johnson for years. I built experiences, physical experiences. I ran their digital group, but I was involved with physical experiences. And there's just a different way to think about how you design in using digital technologies than if you were in a physical space. And people need to be, people need help. They need to be onboarded with that, or else they're going to end up with an on-24 webinar type scenario that's going to basically.
We've all experienced too many times, right? So, Kenny, the thing that's intriguing to me is the idea that I think is so critical of deciding what the endpoint is. What do you want people to actually feel, and what do you want them to experience? Because what strikes me is, if you start with anything other than that, you end up with way too many possible directions that it could go, that you can never replicate an actual human, right? You can never get an AI driven persona or any of the other stuff to work in the way that you want it to, because you need to narrow it down for it to be effective. So I'm really intrigued about how you guys can get
so
to
we
that.
use I mean, so I think you're exactly right. And what Rolf said, yes, you could have, so you could read together. Yeah. Whether you could or would want to, that's two different questions.
Right.
But you could, and to Rolf's comment around Christopher Columbus, absolutely you could do that. And in fact, they're already doing simulations of that in AI, but they're using chatbot threaded discussions, where you can talk to like Salvador Dali and get some of that experience. But it's not. Yes, it's not a true AI, but it's still pretty good. So to answer, the mustache, to answer your question, Nicole, is that there's a behavioral model that I use that was created by the guy who runs the Persuasion Lab at Stanford, BJ Fogg. And years ago, and I used it at the Wars, years ago, I spent a couple of days with him because he lives up north near us. Nicole, I think you're in the Bay Area, right? Or no?
No, I'm further south. But
further south. Okay. So he's in Hillsburg near Napa. And his behavioral model is this. If you want a behavior to happen, three things have to happen at the same time. The audience has to be motivated to act in accordance with that behavior. The audience has to have the ability to act in accordance with that behavior. And then the audience needed to be prompted or triggered at the right time. So if the behavior that you want is not happening, one or more of those three things are not happening. And then, so once you understand that, the real challenge is figuring out what the behavior is, which goes to your point, is what do you actually want to happen? And this behavior can change throughout an event. Pre-event, what do you want to happen? Post-event, what do you want to happen? During the event, even different behaviors. And this goes with building a website. This goes with, asking my wife to go see a movie with me, whatever. It's all, but whatever it is, like trying to enroll someone in getting a pizza. I don't want it. Okay, well, either they're not motivated to have pizza, they don't have the ability, or for some reason I'm asking them at the wrong time, which is typically the problem with my wife is when I ask. But anyway, that's a whole nother CRM Playaz.
We'll bring you onto the show for that.
But that's what we do. So when we sit with an event team, we always start there, and it's amazing how little, to be honest, they have thought about that. And a lot of it, especially, and this is even true with events, but especially now when you have limited time, you have, depending upon your tech capabilities and your tech stack, and depending upon how much people will pay, it's not about just taking what you did in the physical and putting it in the virtual. It's about really thinking about what you want to happen with everything that you know. But the beauty is once you identify that behavior, then you design for it, right? And you build in motivation, ability, and prompting at the same time. Like Zoom's breakout groups, okay. I mean, they're fine, right? Because it does allow you to create. So if you have a certain behavior where you need different groups to come up with something, the behavior is we need them to brainstorm, then that would be a solution. Much better than if you had everyone all together, right? For example, there are better ways to do that, but the point is that and also identifying the behavior and designing for that means that you also have some success metrics that you can measure, and you can figure out. It's just I don't know. I like the model because it's simple, but there's nothing brilliant about it, really. I mean, no offense to BJ. I hope he's not watching. But the beauty is just really understanding where you want to go, and then you can go find. I always say, like when I talk to the all the MBA. So my second year there, I didn't come from sports, so they really didn't know what perspective I had on anything. When I spoke to all the teams, I helped them understand. I said, what business do you think we're in? And everyone's like, well, we're in the basketball business. I said, no, we're in the experience creation business. That's what we are. So if you're in the experience creation business, you look to entertainment, look to Hollywood. I mean, we're a team. We have sports, we have dancing girls, we're very similar. But the point is, if you aren't thinking of yourself as an entertainment property and as a basketball team, you don't think the right way. And that was an evolution the Warriors had to take as we were opening a new arena that was going to be much more than sports. We became an entertainment company that happens to play basketball instead of a basketball company that's going to do something on the side. And so, and then once we understood that, then we create all the behaviors that we want to happen. And there is technology, like the technology we're using, coming from a company called Immersive, is phenomenally open in terms of it's a game engine SaaS platform, and the ability, and I've seen all of them, and some of them are pretty cool. Like Yo Tribe is doing some interesting things. I don't know, Nicole, if you see, Ray's
we're using it for the Constellation Connected Enterprise,
right? Yeah. So I thought I'm like, that's pretty good. Clubhouse is using an audio format. I don't know, Paul and Brent, if you know about Clubhouse, but it's an invite-only app, but it's all audio.
I didn't know about it because I wasn't invited. So
I'll send you over an invite. So there's a lot of different platforms, because one of the other things that we think about in terms of immersiveness is not just actually immersing yourself in the experience, but in looking at how to extend the experience past the actual event.
But this is the thing, like, when does it actually start, right? I mean, when does it actually start, and when does it actually end? Does it end?
Yeah. Right.
It's a fascinating set of questions, for sure.
Yeah, fascinating, because, like even with Tony's events, it's whatever, 4 days or like, say, Dreamforce, right? 4 days. And in between each day is an opportunity to continue. If you're at a physical event, you'd be meeting in the bar, right? You'd be going down. There would be accidental collisions, right? And then, of course, after the event, you connect and, you continue learning and growing. I mean, the opportunity potentially is to have it be year round, depending upon, what's available and whether the event is recorded and all that. I mean, it's just a different world. We've always had the same, like even I look back on a presentation I gave in 2008, and I said an event is an event is an event, because all of our clients at George B. Johnson were like, well, let's just take exactly what we're doing in the physical space and throw it in the virtual space. And maybe that was okay. I didn't believe it then, but it certainly isn't okay now, in my opinion.
It's a new form of the medium is the message. Sorry, Paul.
Yeah, totally. No, absolutely.
But see, one of the things that I actually think is really difficult is to get past the routine head, I guess is what it is, that the physical events have engendered. So and this might sound ridiculous, but it's an actual example. So I was actually hired by ServiceNow to do a keynote at Contact Center World. And it was digital. It was a completely digital event. I didn't know it was a keynote till literally the introduction said it was. Right. I had no idea. Right. And then I found out it was the third day keynote. It didn't matter. That's the one thing about a virtual event too. The stage is whatever, right? So whatever, you don't see anything but yourself and a few other things maybe. But here's the thing. And this is the ridiculous part. Since that event, I've been hit probably 50, 60 times from people who got my name on a list trying to sell me services, who were partners and exhibitors at the event. Meaning, no matter how virtual this event is, that behavior never changed whatsoever. And it's as annoying virtually from a virtual event as it was from a real event, for the reason that, one, I was a speaker, right? Not a prospect, right? And two, those people were given the list and not told anything. And then what happened? So, but that's not a trivial problem, actually, because we want to talk about the ongoing nature of the experience. I mean, part of it is those behaviors have to change too, right? The behaviors of the partners, the exhibitors, but how do you do that? I mean, you can have a virtual exhibition hall, right? And that's great, and it's pretty cool, and you do some cool things, but ultimately their behavior is no different. They're there to do lead gen. Right. And they're going to continue to do lead gen the way they've always done lead gen, period.
Is that where you're going with that one, Paul? Yeah, it's a problem, right? I mean, the thing is, this is forcing everyone to up their game in every way, because it's in a lot of ways, it's a lot more obvious than it used to be. And it's a lot harder to ignore. And, when you're evidently and clearly and frequently annoyed, it does not make for a good customer experience. Right. Or
that is true.
Or whatever else, right?
But Kenny, so how do you do that though? How do you start dealing with those? They'll call them ancillary behaviors, but even though they're germane, but they're ancillary. So how do you deal with that?
Well, I don't know. It's a really good question, because a lot of the thought has gone into how you change behavior in designing the actual experience, and not a lot of thought has gone into how you stop existing behavior or redirect behavior to be something else, whether that becomes a platform that only communication from this event can flow through this platform. But I mean, anybody can look you up, right? And but do you think that is that happens more at a virtual event than it does at a physical event?
No, I think it happens exactly at the same pace. That's the one thing I've learned.
I think it happens more virtually because it's easier to do virtually. I mean, people have to physically be there, and then and then they do all that stuff. But
they all get the list though. Ultimately, it's the owner of the event providing the exhibitors with lists, and that's the same regardless.
It seems easier for these folks to reach you now than they could choose different channels, and they just overwhelm you with stuff now. It gets
and they're doing it.
Yeah, it gets really.
But I mean, also, to Brent's point, they how do I put it? Even the physical event, still the outreach later was virtual, right? I mean, regardless. So that part hasn't shifted. It's remained the same, but it's now aligned with a virtual event. And here's the problem with that. So you take a typical, let's say, large enterprise virtual event, and let's say, I'm just picking a number here. The physical event was 20,000 people. The virtual event's usually like 60,000, which makes it even a much bigger pool for those partners and exhibitors with those lists. And and believe me, they have been just insane about it. So I'm still getting them weeks later, and I shouldn't have gotten even a single one, and that's
Also-
just bad CRM.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
And
from
if
bad
these-
to worse.
Right.
Yeah, and these events are also, if they're recorded and made available, then people can revisit them. They could pass on. So there is a longer life to virtual events that are recorded. But also, I mean, it's something. These are things that need to be addressed. Just like the way you actually design an experience, that has to be part of it. I think you have to be very conscious of what you're creating when you do an event.
Yes.
You know, whether that become physical, virtual, or even hybrid, which is I think where things are gonna where the pendulum is gonna end up sitting is in hybrid.
Okay.
It's a great conversation.
It was a great conversation. Even after we got done talking with Oracle, TikTok, Walmart, this actually was a great follow up. So glad we got it in there. So hey,
A lot more interesting.
Yeah, we'll do an AI persona of Paul and Brent, and just let them. Your AI personas can do this in the future.
Yes.
Can we do
Works
it
for
on
me.
Twitch? Can we do it on Twitch or TikTok?
You can do it on Twitch where you can get subscribers.
Right.
That's
right.
right. We want those subscribers. All right.
Donations.
Part of your salary would go to your AI, and the rest to you.
Donations.
All right. Hey man, this has been great. It's been way too long since we did something like this. So we're really thankful for you to take the time today and do it. And we hope you'll be coming back sooner rather than later. Let's put it like that.
Are you talking to us?
Yeah, I want to come back.
Okay. Yeah, we would love to. Like, all you need to do is ask. We love it. We love
Okay.
this, or I love this. I'm sure Nicole does.
All right. Well, she's a regular.
That's right. Well,
All
right.
Well, I'll come back as much as you need.
absolutely. That'd be great, man. So for Kenny Lauer, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
And I'm Elle Nicole France.
We are the CRM Players, and if it's Blur's Day, then we still are the CRM Players. And if it's Friday, we'll be talking sports, but we'll still be CRM Players. We'll see you then.